Hey crafty friends, this is Chelsea. Welcome to today's video. We are going to be working with some fun winter pictures. You can see I already have some pieces prepped because I wanted to take this Evergreen scrapbooking workshop from close to my heart and just kind of kick it up a notch. We're going to be making one of the layouts from this kit. I love that the workshop kits come with the full cutting guide, directions how to put everything together. If there's techniques, they tell you how to do those techniques. They're really great kits. They have exclusive die cuts that only come in the kit. Plus you get a full paper pack, sticker sheet, all the cardstock you need. So it's just a really fun way to start out creating. But I also like to add my own little flair as well. Now here is one of the other layouts. This is how I prep. I cut all the pieces, put them in a pile with the base, punch out any of the die cuts that go with that layout. They're all labeled on the back side. And then I just stick them in that pile until I'm ready to make them. Here is my other pile. If you want to see these layouts, you can see the finished ones on my Instagram account. Now, typically I make these kits with my customers live on Zoom and also stream it onto Facebook in our private customer Facebook group. And we're going to do number 3 today. I saved it. I made the other 2 sets of pages from this kit with my customers on Zoom, but I saved this one to make with you guys. Sometimes I make the pages exactly as shown, and sometimes I like to add stamping or switch pieces around, and that's what we are going to do today. I have some stamps in mind that I want to use and kind of reorganize the pieces just a little bit. I'm going to be using this Warmest greeting stamp set. You might think of this as like a card making stamp set, but you'll see how I use it today. The Evergreen card making with those beautiful trees. I knew I had to use that. And then the Snow Cute with the really pretty snowflakes and really nice sentiments. I definitely grabbed that snowflake set for those cute sentiments. I like the original design of this layout quite a bit, so I'm not going to be changing a ton. A lot of it is going to come down to the embellishing and, in my typical fashion, also squeezing in some extra photos. If there's pages that have an opportunity to add more photos and it still fits with the design, oftentimes I will do that. These strips are going down in the exact same position as they show in the guide. And then same with this, I have a 4x6 photo that is going on the left. And then here on the right, I have those 2 3x3s. And instead of a 4x6 landscape, I did 2 3x4 portraits because I just take way more portrait photos. So I do this quite a bit. Now this little frame here was supposed to actually have journaling in it. This layout had opportunities for 2 different spots with journaling. And I didn't feel like I had that much to say about this day. I felt like I could put everything I need to say on the other journaling spot, so I decided to put another 3x3 photo behind that frame. I am kind of referencing the guide as I go along to see about placement and where the photos are situated in there. I will end up switching it up a little bit. You can see my journaling spot that I brought in there. And now this is probably the biggest change I'm going to make. All of these little shapes, I'm not quite sure what you would call that shape. It kind of reminds me of a snowflake, but these were kind of supposed to be around the bottom of the page. They start on the left and go over to the right and kind of stick to the bottom of the page. But I thought it would be really fun to kind of do a big flourish of them. So have them start out at the bottom and then kind of curl up and around to the top of the photos on the right-hand side. So that's kind of what I have in mind. I'm going to play with it first, see if it's going to work because it's just kind of an idea in my head at this point. I would have liked to have more of these shapes to kind of fill out this design a little bit better, but I do have a solution for that, so stick around. I'll show you what my solution was to kind of fill in any gaps where I didn't have enough of these pieces. One of my favorite things about these workshops is you can use them exactly as directed. You don't have to think about the design. Really, the work is finding what photos you want to use and writing your journaling. Everything else is detailed for you right down to placement of like how far things are from the edge, and like it gives you exact measurements. So if that sounds good to you, you can scrapbook without having to think too much about the design. You just get to play and have fun. You can follow those guides directly, and I do when I don't see an opportunity to switch it up. I just love how it looks, exactly how it is. I'll just go ahead and do that. But if there's things that maybe I want to work in some stamps or I don't exactly love how it's laid out, I will switch it up. Just kind of depends on the kit, really. and also what photos I have, because maybe I need to switch things up to fit my photos. It did take me a little bit of time of playing around to see how I liked this sort of flourish or cascade of these shapes. Now, my solution for not having enough of these pieces was to bring in those snowflakes, and I'm just going to fill in the gaps by stamping snowflakes. I couldn't decide because all of these have thin cuts that go along with them, so you can die cut them as well. I thought, well, I could stamp them and die cut them and kind of pop them up or something like that, but what I ended up doing is stamping them on the background. So I'm kind of going along, planning out kind of where they will fit. And I will tweak this because realistically, I need to do some stuff on the background before all of this goes down. So all of this, like laying things out, I took a picture of it and I will come back to it once I get the background design kind of set into place. I wasn't loving how empty it was at the bottom, and I realized because I changed the flow of all those shapes, I needed to move my photo blocks down. So once I did that, it feels a lot better. And it gives me more room at the top for embellishing as well. So that was just kind of a little tweak that made it feel a little bit better to me and not like this big empty hole at the bottom. I want to add some detail to my background, and I thought the easiest way to kind of keep track of where my photos are going is to just take a pencil and draw little tick marks that will be hidden by the photo mats. So I'm kind of going a little bit under the photo mats to make sure they're going to be hidden. That's a good tip if you're going to be ink blending or stamping, putting ink over pencil, then you can no longer erase the pencil. So just make sure if you're doing that, put those little tick marks somewhere where you know they're going to be hidden. And it's super helpful when you're going to be inking, stamping, and you want to kind of have a reference point of where those photo mats are going to be so that you put your stamps and things out far enough that they actually matter and you don't end up just covering everything up with your photos. Once I get that all marked out, then it's time to take everything off. And I did stick down the pattern paper strips so that I don't have to worry about those moving around. They are stuck into place now. And I'm using a mini ink blending tool with Acorn ink, and I'm putting it on heaviest in the middle and then just letting it fade out towards the edges. So you have this really natural kind of fade out. This is my favorite way to do this. I used to kind of just like ink it up and then wipe off the edges, but I find using this tool, I got this tip from my friend Julie, and I find it gives you the most natural kind of just fading off of the design. And I love the softness of this. Now, I'm sure on camera, it's never turns out as good on camera as you can see it in person, but in person, it just adds this really nice detail to the background and it fills up some of that white space. I also like trying to get more out of my products. You might think of background stamps as like just a card making tool, but they don't have to be, right? You can definitely use them in your scrapbooking, and this is a really fun way to do it. I do recommend if you're using big background stamps like this, it's always a good idea to use a foam surface. So I am flipping over my Versamats to the back side. They have that nice squishy foam, which is perfect for stamping. You can also just take the foam that comes in each stamp set and put it under the area. But I like when I'm working on pages to use the full side of the Versamat because then I don't need to worry about accidentally stamping off the edge, not having it placed perfectly. And just the impression, especially from the center of your image, is going to be so much better and crisper having that foam surface underneath. Now, if you're wondering how I chose where to stamp this, I was kind of just going by feel. I knew I didn't want it to be completely covered up by embellishments, and I kind of wanted some on each side of the photos, so kind of diagonal from each other, right? So I started out in one spot and then I went diagonally and put stamping across from it, or here I'm doing top and bottom, kind of bottom left corner of that collection of photos. And basically I just wanted it peeking out here and there, keeping in mind that I am going to put some inking down and I'm also going to put all those little like snowflakes and shapes through that center area. So I am grabbing the Sage ink and I am just going to town ink blending. Wherever it's going to be hidden, that's where I put my brush down first. So I know that I'm going to have things there hiding kind of that darker area of inking, and I basically want to blend it out to nothing. I don't want to have harsh edges. So I put my brush down that has the most ink on it, maybe under the photo or right at the edge of the photo, and then blend out from there. until I have like nothing. It kind of looks like nothing is coming off my brush. This is a technique that I've really been loving lately. It's funny how those things can sneak up on you. I was looking at some of my recent or semi-recent layout videos on YouTube, and several of them have this ink blending in the background, kind of poking out behind photos. And I don't know, I've just kind of fallen into this rut, but I love it. It's a good inking rut, and I always love using like white or cream backgrounds quite a bit, and that works great with adding some ink to your background as well. This inking is the kind of last bit of embellishing that I'm going to do to this background. I really love how all of this added a little bit of extra detail and softness to the background, but I am going to move on to stamping some embellishments. I love using my stamps to make embellishments. I'm going to use both pine and rosemary ink, as well as these trees from that Evergreen card making set. Love this little stand of trees. The detail in here is really awesome. So this is pine, and I was trying to determine if I like the pine or the rosemary better. Both of these colors are in the paper collection, and I decided to use both. So I actually stamped and die cut 2 out of each color, and I didn't think I was going to use them all. I was like, well, I'll just stamp them and kind of see what worked and then keep the rest for something else, because I'd rather make them while I'm doing it rather than having to come back. But I kind of thought that they looked really nice layered together on the left. And then I was like, what the heck? Why don't I add both of them to the right, and then it's nice and balanced between the two sides. I have other embellishments that are going to kind of layer around these as well. So I end up using those. Now I have this little house that is from the sticker sheet. I like to use some of the anti-static powder bag on the back so that I can move the stickers around and decide exactly where I want them, or add foam tape to them, or whatever I want to do. I spent a little bit of time trying to figure out the trees on the side because it wasn't in my original plan to have both sets of trees on there, but I am using some of the die cuts from the kit. They are laser cut, so the detail on those are amazing, especially how delicate those branches are. Now there's one little part here that I didn't show you, is putting that white flower and the leaves and everything at the bottom. So just notice there on the right hand page, that little cluster at the bottom. I used the die cuts from the kit to do that, and then I also used the little gem that's in the center is from the Silver Bells dots, and it's like an enamel dot, but it has glitter trapped inside of it. They are so beautiful. I'm just going along now and arranging all my pieces, making sure my trees are where I want them to be. I'm going to stick everything down into place. I have some more embellishments from the kit that are going in that top left kind of corner. And for this, I am following what was in the original guide and just kind of following that to stick everything down. Now, while I'm placing everything, I'll just quickly tell you the story of these photos. This is from last winter, so it was the week between Christmas and New Year's. I love that time because it's pretty quiet, there's not a lot going on, and basically we just spend a lot of time as a family. Sometimes life gets really busy and we don't have time to do that, so we took the opportunity just to go play outside, do all those kind of fun things, and try to somewhat enjoy the winter. My husband and I are not really fans, but you know, when you have a toddler, you got to get out there and burn off that energy. I did go ahead and stuck down all those little shapes off camera. You can see the white little snowflakes were extra die cuts that I put on top of the brown ones, and now I'm going around and filling in with my stamped snowflakes, and I'm using this sticky note to mask off so that I'm not getting that onto my photo or anything. And I'm using pine ink, sage, and rosemary, and just kind of alternating between the 3 colors so that I kind of get all 3 shades of the green going on there. And when I put these little shapes on, I did not cut them. So right now they're holding my 2 pages together, and I was going to cut them apart, and then I was like, why would I do that? Keep them together so that when I'm stamping, I know that, you know, the pages aren't floating apart from each other. They're held in place, and that worked out really good. I'm also moving my little foam piece from the stamp set around and putting it under wherever I'm stamping. Unfortunately, I did get some ink on that one piece. I was using a too large of a block, And I did have an extra shape that I could use from my December daily because I am using this kit in my December daily as well. I bought two, one to do the scrapbook layouts because they were so pretty, and another one to make my December daily from. So I went and stole one of those little shapes to replace the one that I got ink on because it was quite a bit and I couldn't fix it. If you find that happening to yourself quite a bit, usually the problem is that you're using too big of a block. So I had all my stamps mounted on my blocks, and I end up using up all my littler ones for the other stamps, and I didn't have another little block, and that's why I got ink on the edge of my block, and then I stamped and kind of rocked it a little bit and ended up with a line of ink. So if you also have those issues, make sure you size down to whatever block is closer to your actual stamp size. I used Evergreen ink to stamp that "Your Snow Cute" sentiment, and now I am going to cut my pages apart. So you could use scissors for this. I used a craft knife. I just had to go over it a couple times to kind of break that, get it cut all the way through. I probably could use a new blade in here actually, but I was going fairly lightly. I didn't want to accidentally cut crooked or anything, so it took me a few little passes there to get through. But I love how clean of lines I got with that, especially with the stamp snowflake that bridged the two pages. I was happy that my pages were stuck together because I got a perfect stamped image across the two pages. I just went and cleaned up with my scissors a little bit to get any extra, smooth it out. And I love the flow of that kind of flourish of snowflakes across the two pages. I added a little sticker here from the sticker sheet. And then I'm going to bring them a little bit closer here so you can see, hopefully in a little bit better detail, what that background's looking like, those trees. Love the detail on that tree stamp for sure, and all those pretty snowflakes. So there was definitely some extra wow factor added to these pages with that background. I think from moving that flourish of snowflakes kind of up and across the two pages, it really made it a little bit more of a bold statement. And I just love how these turned out. If you're ready for some more scrapbooking inspiration, make sure you check out this playlist and subscribe so you don't miss my next video. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.